What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fitness Realty channel. My name is TJ McLelland and I'm the broker. I'm super excited to share all the things we have planned with you. So sit back, strap in, and let's have some fun. What's up, everybody? This is going to be our Halloween episode filled with fear and frightmares and scary times. My name is TJ McLelland. I am the broker of Fitness Realty. I've got Rachel Davies next to me from North Point Bank, and we are here to discuss the fear in the market right here, right now. Rachel, give us a little bit about you, and then let's talk about the current market conditions.
A little bit about me. I have been in the loan industry since 2002, and I have seen every scary thing that you can possibly imagine that has gone on in the economy during that time. I have worked through the financial housing crisis. I've worked through COVID, and now this super high inflation that we're now seeing. So as far as fear goes, I've seen all the peaks and valleys that this country has had to throw at us in the last 20 years. And yes, I just dated myself. So I'm really excited because it matches perfectly with Halloween.
Nice. Very nice. Well, I am excited to just kind of dive into this. So we kind of mentioned talking about the fear, inflation, and affordability really right now for almost every buyer is kind of insane. Something that I haven't shared with you yet is that one of my friends that was on Facebook, and we were kind of talking about the market conditions. She works for a large builder and is one of the model home agents, but she's had almost $8 million in contracts cancel in the last 60 days. So we know we're kind of in this affordability crisis, and so what are some of the things like talk about the conditions that we're in, maybe the rates or where we see rates going? I know nobody has a crystal ball, but I think we have a good idea of what they're going to do right now for the next at least 30 days.
Well, number one, overall, when you're talking about rates, so let's talk about that first. Let's talk about rates because that's probably the biggest number one question that I get asked. What's the rate? Right now we're in sevens. And I'm talking about conventional 30-year fixed, even government loans, FHA, VA. You're high sixes if you're lucky, but we're really in the sevens and we've been there for a little bit. Nobody likes that. However, historically speaking, it's not great, but it's not as bad as it's been. And quite frankly, and we were talking about in the previous episode that I, for one, am not happy, but it is something that needed to happen. The Fed needed to raise their benchmark rate so we could slow down on this white hot appreciation that has seen housing prices skyrocket to obscene levels. In 20 years, I have never seen a seller's market like I have seen this last year. It is no closing costs. It is $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over the appraised value. That is, like I said before, I worked through 08, and those were some of the things that we started to see, that we really saw happening, is that people were paying over appraised value, thinking that the appreciation was going to go up forever and ever. Bottom line, it's not affordable. It's not affordable. We can't do it. We needed higher interest rates to start bringing that level down. The biggest question that people are going to ask is, well, is it going to be like 08, where all of a sudden the floor comes out from underneath us and our house is now $100,000 less than what I bought it for? Oh, excuse me. The situation right now is a lot different than what we were in 08. And I really want to touch on that. Big drivers for the housing financial crisis of 08 was the subprime mortgage market. We were giving loans that we should never been allowed to give. I remember a time where if you had a social security number and a smile, I could get you a loan. I am not kidding. Now, that does not create for sustainable market. And that can be another episode in and of itself. But some key differences, to make a very long story short, between now and then is that, number one, housing inventory. One of the reasons that houses are gone up so fast is that we have a big housing shortage. Population is growing, and the amount of inventory that we have in the marketplace does not meet demand. And so, of course, prices are going to go up. And it just is a matter of time for builders to be able to go in and build enough housing inventory to meet that demand. Part of these rising interest rates help give us that time. So builders can continue to add more homes to the market and prices can level off. Now, when we're talking about housing prices, and stop me, TJ, whenever because I could go on and on about, I'm kind of mortgage geeky in that way. But when we're talking about housing prices, it's really important to understand, and I just lost my thought, so I'm really glad that you can edit this.
No worries.
Where was I going with that? Having the higher interest rates will just help give us one of the advantages. It helps give us that time for more houses to come on the market. Number two, in 2008, there was 4 times the amount of available inventory than what we have now. Number two, the mortgage industry is so much more sound. Foreclosures are not like they were then. Short sales are not like they were then. One of the biggest assets people have is the equity in their home. So you have that fallback, whereas before, because of the subprime market, people were getting loans so fast and so quickly that they really couldn't afford counting on that appreciation. Don't have that anymore. Not like it was in 2008. We have more products available to help offset those costs, but we're not issuing irresponsible mortgages. And I'm talking about that on a macro level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other, so number one is buying houses a smart move? Absolutely. Right now, if you are getting into a house because of moving, or if it's just the right time for you, it's still a great time to buy a house, in that we're starting to see some of those things coming back, like seller concessions. You aren't having 20 bids in 2 hours on one house. You can take and the house is right for you, instead of, here's a house, you have 2 hours to decide. You don't get to do any due diligence to make sure you're not buying a lemon. And if you don't, that's fine. We don't care, because there's 10 other offers and you're lucky to get what you get. It's been unhealthy, and that's made, that piece of it has made me nervous. I haven't liked seeing that. So I've been happy to see higher interest rates bring down that demand, because it is going to come back. As far as where interest rates going to go, the biggest thing that I would tell people about interest rates is keep in mind 2 things. Interest rates for mortgages, for conventional 30-year mortgages, are not directly tied to what the Fed does. So if the Fed raises interest rates by 3/4 of a point, half a point, that doesn't mean that it translates directly to mortgage rates. Like, it's going to go up by 0.75. It's an indirect relationship. And that does matter, because, when the Fed was raising interest rates really fast, we started to see interest rates really fall in July, August timeframe, even though the Fed had kept raising their benchmark interest rate. That is important for one reason. Well, for many reasons, but that is important because what the Fed is doing right now is going to reverberate through the economy and take effect 3 months from now. So the Fed raising the interest rates 3 months ago is just, we're starting to see those effects now as it percolates through the system. And so it's really important to realize that there's always a delay in, Fed raises the interest rates. There's always going to be a delay in the economy as it percolates through the entire global economy. And so it's important to give it time and not to be too panicked that we're just going to see this skyrocketing interest rates. I think that the Fed has been good about communicating that they want to be very aggressive about getting their hands around inflation. And that's what I was going to say. The reason that the delay between what the Fed does and how it takes effect in the economy is, probably most of the listeners here are watching the news and hearing where inflation's going and hearing that we are not seeing a decrease in inflation like they were expecting. That is true. However, realize that the Fed has taken immediate and been aggressively raising interest rates for months and months. And there's always going to be a delay when you see those things really take hold onto inflation to decrease it. So generally the consensus is, yes, interest rates are high right now, and probably till the end of the year, interest rates will continue to be high. The projection in the marketplace has been that we'll probably come around and hit in the 4s once inflation really gets under control, and we start out through important economic reports. We will start to really see a decrease in interest rates in the middle of next year, is what they are projecting right now. And so that's a very short, when you're comparing it to, again, something like the late 70s during Jimmy Carter administration, where we just saw this crazy high interest rates, 11, 12% for mortgages. Do I think that we'll get that high? According to Rachel, I don't think it'll get that high, but we're higher than, if you take the average over our history of interest rates, they've generally been in high 5s, and we're well beyond that. So anytime that, if you were to look at a graph over interest rates and what they've done for the last 50 years, every time the Fed raises interest rates, and especially aggressively right now, you do see a retraction in interest rates. And we could go into more of that, but that would be a different episode as far as the nuts and bolts and how that all works. But I'm trying not to dig too much into the weeds today, and just kind of give an overview of important things to keep in mind. So overall, I would say, number one, we are still having a housing shortage. That's not going to go away tomorrow. Right. And so there's always going to be there's always going to be value in home. The amount of equity that people have in their homes today is so strong. And that's a tremendous asset. If you are buying a new home or selling your current home, or in a financial bind. There's always that you can draw from. And then just keep in mind, interest rates are not going to stay like this forever. They are higher, and it's scary, and it creates uncertainty because no one knows the future. However, all the projections from everyone, for the Fed to financial experts, are predicting that interest rates will return back to normal levels. Will we see 2s? Probably not. Hopefully not, because that's right. More like the COVID area, and that's not necessarily healthy either, but we'll definitely see rates become to a more affordable level. So it's not going to be a long term where you're losing your shirt.
Yeah, that's cool. What about if you had to have your crystal ball out on your desk, the November 1st Fed rate, right? Are they meeting November 1st, or is it like the first week of November? But if you had to like pin it down to stab it in the dark, is it going to be 75 basis points, or is it going to be 100 basis points?
I think it'll be 75. And I can get into my reasoning for that if you want, but I think it'll be 75.
Okay, let's go with that, because I think that most people, even if we dived into that, it'll just be like I don't know what's happening.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would just say that simplistically speaking, I think that there's been some calls internationally for the Fed not to be so aggressive. And there's some other positive things happening in the marketplace. However, keep in mind, 75 is still a lot, historically speaking. 75 is still a lot. And they've also come out and said that they're going to continue raising the Fed benchmark interest rate by 75 by 3/4 of a point until the end of the year. So we've got a couple more of these, but my crystal ball, 75 basis points.
Nice. Well, and I mean, old Jay Powell himself's like, we're bringing the pain. And I'm like, man, when you say it like that, we're in for some hurt, I think. It's going to be deeper and longer than normal.
Yeah. And when people talk about that, I think it's really helpful to talk about length of time. If you're going to tell me to run as fast as I can for 30 seconds, then that gives me a sense of like, oh, you're going to hurt so bad. But if you tell me, hey, that's going to last for 30 seconds, then I have a different mindset. Or if someone comes up to you and says, you're going to have to run as fast as you can for 30 minutes straight, like at a
That's
6-minute
not
mile.
happening.
I'm going to freak out about that.
Yep.
So when Powell's coming out and saying, yeah, there's going to be some pain. Yeah, there is. And there should be. We need it to be that so we can get a hold of these skyrocketing housing prices, of this shortage of inventory for houses, so you can get into the house that you want in a reasonable term, not having to pay $50,000 extra over appraisal price, plus closing costs, plus you got to replace the roof, all that stuff. It just creates long-term affordability for relatively short amount of pain. And when I'm talking about length of time, so if he's like, hey, we're thinking for the next 6 months to a year, again, nobody knows. Who knows? There's a lot of things happening globally, but that's the general market consensus right now.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Well, I think that's a pretty healthy dose of market conditions that we identified, talked about, kind of curtailed some of the issues that are in there. And so I just want to see if there's one final piece that you might want to put out there for people, maybe scared buyers that are in the market right now. What's kind of the one thing that you could give them to maybe have a piece of candy, I guess, at Halloween?
Yes, uncertainty in the marketplace is what I wanted to kind of end on. Borrowers, the biggest thing that I would tell all of my clients is make sure, know your financial situation in and out. Really pay attention to your credit score. Really pay attention to your own budgeting, your own retirement, and understand how you can leverage your own wealth that you have, maybe in the home that you have, maybe it's in your credit score, so that you can navigate these uncertain times. Because if you do it smart, if you have a coach that kind of helps you, okay, let's start at the basics. Let's start at just budgeting your money and knowing where everything goes. And there's a million and one ways to make that happen. Also, know what your credit score is, know what's on your credit report, have a financial advisor or planner or loan officer sit down with you and go through your credit report line item to make your credit the absolute best that it can be. And realize that there's also a ton of money out there right now through institutions like grants, down payment assistance, because this market affordability is a huge issue. And there's a ton of stuff out there that can really help clients with down payment or closing cost assistance, rural loans, diving in the right way into the equity that you have in your home. It's not necessarily a bad thing to use it, but you want to do it understanding the whole picture, time frame, and what you're trying to achieve. There are a lot of tools out there, whether it's mortgage products that we have available now, whether it's, a down payment assistance program to help you get into a home that you want right now. And rest assured, as long as we have that, keep that healthy market going and keep a healthy housing economy going, you will see your home appreciate, and it will be affordable. But we have to go through this pain right now to do some corrections so we don't end up in the 70s inflation nightmare or in the housing financial crisis of '08. But it's really understanding your own financial picture, wrapping your hands around it, understanding it, and understanding your options, because there's a lot of options, and real estate is still an incredible investment. And it's one of the biggest predictors of a personal wealth creation out there. That's solid.
No, I love that. Something that really stood out to me while you were talking is that a few times it was that find out your options, learn about it, gain knowledge, right? And I always am a firm believer that knowledge is light and knowledge actually beats out fear. And so when we're talking about such a fearful market and buyers are just scared and skittish, and so is pretty much everybody in the market right now. But with truth and knowledge, we can combat that. And so I just wanted to say thanks for bringing that truth to us, because there's not a lot of people talking about it right now, because fear and clickbait actually brings more views, when really I want to bring truth and knowledge to what we're talking about here. And so I really appreciate you bringing that to our channel.
Yes, absolutely. And not to be fair, but There is a lot. This is unprecedented times in a certain way, and it's important not to be cavalier about it. But circling back to what you said, TJ, that's exactly what it is. Just understanding your own financial situation, understanding your assets, understanding your credit. Understanding where you're at in the marketplace, even different areas for real estate, having the right team of people to help educate you and get your own information is really what's going to kind of cut through all that fear so you can make a smart choice and make a sustainable choice for you.
Right. No, I love that. Well, this has been our fun Halloween episode, hopefully filled with fear and I don't know.
Just fear and chaos, because there's plenty of chaos and instability. So.
Right. Well, I hope everybody gets out there and does some trick-or-treating or something and get some candy. But I really want to just say thank you one more time. I love real estate. I really do think same thing like you do. It is a powerful tool for wealth generation. It always will be. And it has been for many, many generations, and it will to the many, many generations to come. So on that, I love everybody out there. I am TJ McLelland, the broker of Fitness Realty. I've got Rachel Davies here with me from North Point Bank. Just wanted to say thank you, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, TJ. Thanks, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for supporting us. We'll see you next time, and we love you. Later.